Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another Three Marlets Reviews. Is that what I'm calling this? I've changed the title so many times. Anyway, after being disappointed by the box office last week, Pacific Rim, still one of my favorite movies of this year. Actually, it's the favorite movie of the year. God, that should have been... Really? I haven't seen Despicable Me 2, so still. But really, Grown-Ups 2 beat that, and that deserves a whole other video. I will get into that later with another video, because right now I'm talking about what I saw this week, and what I saw this week was The Conjuring. And this was a tough one to pick this week, and it's going to be an interesting look at the box office, how things go. Although, of course, as we saw from last week, winning the box office, especially opening weekend, is no indication of whether a movie's good or not, or whether a movie's bad or not. Especially first weekend, because that's all just based on advertisements. But this week it's going to be very interesting, because you have Red 2, R.I.P.D., and this film, The Conjuring, which, from what I heard, a lot of people saying it's already starting to track above what it was expected to, and might come out on top this weekend. I'm kind of secretly pulling for Pacific Rim to kind of come out of nowhere and reach like season number 1, but hey. Anyway, what did I think of The Conjuring? Since this is the movie I picked, R.I.P.D. looked a little meh, and Red 2, I like the original Red. I think I've just been tired of action movies, so I decided to switch genres. I think we're at that point right now where we've seen nothing but Hollywood spectacle. We kind of want to change the pace. So I decided to go see The Conjuring. It looked good. I heard some good things about it. Directed by, as the dog plays with his toys, directed by James Wan, who if you probably haven't recognized that name, but you've probably recognized at least one of his movies, that being the original Saw. Yeah, the director behind the original Saw and movies such as Insidious. And that's really probably the only thing you're going to recognize. Saw, Insidious, and this are probably his big ones, although apparently he's been tapped to direct Fast and Furious 7. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by the dog. Where did you get that thing? Anyway. What did I think of the movie overall? It was actually really surprisingly good. Certainly better than a lot of the other horror films I've seen recently. And the horror film I saw last year this time, which, God, what was the name of that one? It'll come to me in a second. And what I mean by come to me in a second, I mean I'm looking at my old videos online. But the movie really does a good mix of just kind of taking all these different horror cliches and setups and elements, putting them all into like a blender and hitting the puree button. It's got stuff from all over and made on a really fairly low budget, but it doesn't look it. This was made on a $20 million budget, and it's impressive how much more effective this is because they're using practical effects. And what I mean by even using practical effects, like really simple practical effects. Like that's part of the problem with a lot of Hollywood movies and a lot of movies that have budget, is they feel the need they've got to put out and spend it and do something crazy with it. But this film, I mean, just like moving doors, just like seeing doors move, which by the way is an easy to do special effect, which requires all about 2 cents to pull off because you just tie some string where it's not in view, or it's that really thin string. So even if you don't notice, it doesn't get picked up on the camera really. But it's like little stuff like that. The doors closing, this moving by themselves, little simple stuff that are practical, but you're seeing it, and it throws you off. It gets a little spooky. It builds that atmosphere, and that's what this movie does. It does it very well, and I'm glad to see that. It's sad, but if this was a multi-million, if this thing had like 2-3 times the budget, they would have probably freaking done a CGI wooden door on a cabinet opening and closing, which, by the way, I've seen. Yeah, don't believe me? You have been seeing a lot of horror movies recently. But this did that. It did the subtlety stuff. It had a couple of jump scares, yeah, it's to be expected, but it also had a lot of just tension building, atmosphere building, and it did it well. Um, they didn't go overboard, and sometimes when they could have done a jump scare, they didn't. They could, like, there's the one scene where you have the one Warren, but I suppose I should give a quick preview. I'm assuming most of you have probably already seen this. I think I've talked about this a couple times. How it seems that most of the people today kind of goes to see reviews after they've seen a movie to see if people agree with their own thoughts and such. Oh, and the Possession was the other Exorcist movie I saw about 10 months ago, according to this. And that was kind of forgettable. Like I said, I had to look it up online. Like, I knew I saw it. I knew it was mostly like it was the Jewish possession movie. This one's more, it's a good old-fashioned Catholic one, but it does stuff well. That it's memorable. It's spooky. It's much more spooky than the Possession was. It also takes place in the 70s, and I guess we should get it. It's kind of weird, the narrative a bit, in that I guess we kind of have two main casts that merge. It's supposed to be the true life story of the Warrens, who are a famous investigative team, or investigative couple, you should say, from the 60s, 70s. Yeah, apparently they've been around forever. I haven't looked into whether they're legit, as in, like, they're actually, or is this kind of one of those made-up things, basically, that the studio did. But this is how the movie presents itself, so we'll go with it. And this is supposed to be their case, the case that they have never revealed before, or talked about. And then this is the one, and I guess you could make the argument if this is somewhat, it's because it starts affecting their family, so they... Okay, that could be your hook. Why all of a sudden they wouldn't reveal this, or the fact that maybe they talked a little bit about it recently, and then Hollywood has decided to blow it up to be bigger than it was, which I could buy. Or, there's also the possibility they're liars. I don't know. But the movie's good, so who cares? Anyway, they go, you have a family moving into a new house, and they're really it's very stereotypical in a lot of ways. And I'm not sure if the microphone is picking up the dogs chewing. If it is, I apologize, but... It's my brother's dog, and I'm not going to mess with him. Lazy creature. Anyway. It does it very well, and even though it's following a very stereotypical plot, it's enjoyable because it does things well. And yeah, you've seen this stuff done 1,000 times, but there hasn't been much, especially recently, you've seen it done as well. And I think a lot of that is due to the budget limitations, which Juan here does very well with. He's good. This is one of those directors where you can give him a small budget and he'll tend to produce a decent enough film. And anyway, it's following them. They're doing the whole caboodle, but we're also getting bits and pieces of following the Warrens, this couple that investigates it. Ed and Lorraine Warren. Lorraine played by Vera Farmiga, and Ed played by Patrick Wilson, who he's Night Owl. We get to see the adventures of Night Owl. And of course, the family, the Perone family, played by Lily Taylor and Rod Livingston of Office Space fame. So they're the ones that buy the house, move in. They got this stereotypical stuff going on. They get this very quickly though. They start having the spooky stuff happening. Like it almost hits like instant. The spooky stuff happening. It's like very, very quickly. And like they have a dog. This is kind of a minor spoiler because of how early it happens. Like the dog bites it in like the second or third scene of the movie. Really early on. Like the dog's just strangled. It looks like. You're like, dude, wow, a lot of modern horror movies, like, they make sure the dog lives in some way. Even Paranormal Activity did that, where the dog was at the vet because it got hurt. Yeah, that's right. That's right, you keep on doing that, I'm gonna have that ghost come and mess with you, dog. Anyway, I should have this as a video chat, because this is just kind of a hilarious setup I got going on here with this creature. Anyway, it's set up, the dog bites it early, but it like then goes into normal escalation. I maybe his death really was completely unrelated. Like, it was this like another, he did just tangle himself up and strangle himself by himself. I like to take that, because like the rest is like a slow build up. Like, normally when stuff goes after the animals, that's like big escalation moment. So that's how I'm taking that scene. If anyone, I haven't seen Brad Jones's or anyone else's review on this yet, but that's how I'm gonna take that. Is that the dog just actually strangled itself, and it was an unrelated accident. But the scenes are really good with the tension building, and kind of reminds you, because it takes place in 1971, and it kind of realizes how boring shit was before we had video games and the internet. Because they're going around there playing like the clapping game, where you tie someone up, you hide, and they got 3 calls to clap, and of course the ghost starts fucking with people, which I like to think that's really what the ghosts and, well, it's demon. Demons are they're just trolls. See, I figured them out. They're trolls. They get off on it. We see the same thing. It's like they have the internet. See, we've explained it once and for all. Anyway, which is a spooky scene though, when they start, the hands just kind of come on out of the closet. I think this was in one of the trailers in this. Really, the trailer spoiled the shit out of this movie. If you haven't seen the trailers, this movie is going to be about twice as horrifying. If I hadn't seen the trailers, like, there'd be some stuff I'd be like, oh shit. But the trailers kind of ruined it. This is going to be one of those in the future that if, like, a couple years from now, when you've either forgotten about the trailer from the get-go, or you never even saw it, and you're watching this on, like, Chiller, this is going to be a good one. Like, this might be one, if you're a long-term planner, pick this one up on DVD and just sit on it for a couple years, or even maybe a couple months, until people forget about the trailer, and then show them it. And, like, some of this, like, when those hands come out of the blackness and clap next to the mom's face, it's spooky. Like, it's, oh shit, what the... But that's the signature scene from the trailer, so everyone knows it. Even the one where, before that, she plays it once before, when she's playing it, you see these hands coming out of a closet, and they go the... Wasn't for you. And then, of course, she goes, she thinks she found a daughter, does the thing, and there's no one in the closet, but we, the audience, see the hands come out. It's spooky. So it does itself very well. It's enjoyable with that. The characters are also nice. Like, even some of the background characters, they know not to overdo them. Like, they have a cop there that's supposed to be like, when they're doing their investigation, when the Warrens finally make this place, he's there to invest. Like, he's the skeptic that's supposed to, like, I guess, keep everyone in check. I think I've heard of this, like, in some of the shows where they purposely try to get a skeptic to join them in order to be a counterbalance for their investigation. So it's I don't know how they found this. They got a cop to join them for this, like, off duty, but he's skeptical a little bit, but not like insanely so. Like, they don't overdo his skepticism, and they don't make him, at least he's not useless later on. Like, when the real shit hit the fan, they got to do the exorcism. Like, they're trying to get back into the house, he just pulls out a freaking out of the way. Fuck the lock. Yeah, see, because he's useful. He's stuck, and it's not like he gets cowardly and runs away. He sticks with him. He's just a side character that they don't overdo. So you have a bunch of likable characters in this movie. The family's likable and enjoyable. Both families are. The Warrens maybe a little bit, they hit the same kind of point over and over again. This is like God brought us together. Like that was a nice scene the first time they brought it up and the first time they talked about it. But they did repeat that. I think they needed some variation in the script about that one. Like, change some things up. Stop repeating that line. Give us some more elements that you have a little bit more to you to. Although speaking of the Warrens, like they have a daughter, and there is a scene where actually this scene's also this was another scene that was kind of in the trailer because you knew this was coming. The if you ever are like that people that you stick your leg out at night and sleep, and you ever get like the creepy feeling something's gonna touch it? Yeah, if you're one of those type of people, this movie might scare the crap out of you. Because they do have that where it's just people are getting tugged right off their beds by this beast early, and it's like a little tug first, and then they build up. And sorry about the pause there. It's well done, and again, practical effect. Like it's kind of obvious that they just tied a rope or a harness system to this girl, or even with one or two of the shots, it might have just been a guy off camera just tugging at her leg. But it's done well enough, and it does kind of spook you out because you have that element where you don't want it to happen. But you leave any of that bone for whatever. Again, this is one of the times I wish I had a camera, because you probably get annoyed by all these pauses, but if you saw what this thing was doing... Alright, I'm talking about you, lazy. You'd probably get a kick out of it. Anyway. That scene's really good. The pulling stuff. But there's a scene that's related with the daughter, the Warren's daughter, or like the demon finally decides, okay, these people are going to try to stop me, so I'm going to go mess with their family. And of course, these couple, every time they go to a place, they have an entire room of possessed objects that they keep under lock and key. And this is what I said earlier, where they mix stuff up. There's a freaky little doll. And this is actually how the movie opens, is with this demon-possessed doll that they happen to be keeping. Like, it's like Warehouse 13 in there. Like, everything in there is possessed and haunted. At the end, they just kind of... They keep, like, a object. It was like the little music box from this one. They just, like, put it on a shelf in there. But, it was great. I think we're getting a little too distracted here with the puffs. So, I'm going to try to wrap this up rather quickly. And near the end, it does become somewhat of a standard exorcist movie. I didn't like the way they kind of pulled off the exorcism. Like, I think they needed him to be more in... Patrick Wilson needed to be more intense with the reading and stuff. It just seemed like he was reading. There's a subtlety to making an exorcism film effective during the actual exorcism, where it's not really the reading of the words, it's really the intent of the words, and like you feeling like what he's saying is what he's meaning. It's just not the actual saying. And I think if he had kept up a little bit of that, it would have been better. It's hard to explain. If you see it, you can kind of get what I mean. Where I think he needed to be a little bit more intent, and I think that might be from a directorial point of view, because Wilson's a pretty decent actor. Again, most exorcism movies kind of do fall apart when they actually get to the exorcist part. It is always the weakest part. Most horror movies, for that matter, the crescendo is actually the least interesting part of the film. Too much stuff is exposed, you know everything then. It's this action and crazy stuff. And you're no longer really scared. Or are scared at that point. It's always the build-up is the frightening part. So... I give this a definite recommendation. We're going to keep it nice and short today. For me, nice and short. Definitely I would check this out if you're looking for a horror film. It's a good one. It's got even elements of the birds in one scene, and a couple others. You see where they just mix everything and they put the puree switch, and it works. Again, also practical effects, practical makeup. Like, wow, they actually put makeup on someone and make them look like they're hanging. it's amazing how much like they would have wasted. Another film would have wasted $2 million to do a CGI model of the ghost, as opposed to what they did here was just put an actor in makeup, probably for 1,000. Probably that's what they probably spent for that actor's makeup, $1,000 versus a couple million. And it looks better with the makeup. It's going to be also an interesting box office because you really I think this is what was the problem last week is you were starting to hit that fatigue point where just too many blockbusters have come out, too many big movies have come out to where most the audience is just they've spent a lot of money if they're going to see these movies. So they're being more cautious. And now you're getting movies where you're getting a bunch bunched up together because, well, the studio wanted a big summer movie, and in order to make sure it's a July release, you got to release it in these last 2 weeks. I think that's partially what happened with Pacific Rim was the fatigue factor. You know, everyone had seen these movies, they're getting tired of it. You want to put out a movie like Pacific Rim earlier on, as like your new IP should be put out early. And I think that's what hurt Pacific Rim. This is a perfect movie. It's $20 million. It's going to be hard for them to lose money at this point with this film. They'll probably make the $20 million this weekend alone domestically. As for the other two, it's going to be, like I said, it's going to be with really 4 new releases plus what's left over from last week. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens at the box office. But that really doesn't matter. Oh, and another thing that I just remember this is I was mentioning they have like a short moment of a little bit of found footage film in there as well. Except they kind of, this is what I mean by this film's kind of useful, is they had the found footage scene and nothing happens in it. Like that's what I like about sometimes with this movie, is it's building up the tension and doesn't do anything. So you're really on edge because you're not sure if there's going to be a scare or not, or if it's this atmosphere building. So you're getting tensed up constantly. Anyway, go see it. I would definitely recommend it. Like I said, I can't say maybe R.I.P.D. is amazing. Red 2 I heard is really good. First one I liked, so I can't say that it's necessarily better than those two. But if you're going to me for advice, this one's a good check out. I recommend it. Well, that's all for now. I guess next week is the Wolverine, I believe. So we're gonna finally see a little bit of that. There is also, of course, Comic-Con going on. If we get some new trailers out of that, I'll be sure to mention that. I will probably do a little bit of talk about that, what gets revealed. I know there's a lot of talk about Godzilla. So maybe big giant monsters just coming back into play, which would be kind of cool. I love the kaiju films growing up. You know, the old Godzilla films. Well, that's it from me, guys. Signing off. Please like if you like the review, comment if you want, and of course, subscribe and share. Bye.